It's your girl Kizzy, aka Kiera, aka Enlightened Intuitive, back with you here for another video. In today's video, I want to talk about perfectionism and how perfectionism is literally ruining lives. It's literally ruining lives as we speak. Perfectionism is such an illusion, and it ruins people's lives. It's ruining our lives. It's taking the fun, the joy, the play out of our lives because we're making it real. We're perpetuating, thank you, Spirit. We're perpetuating the illusion of perfectionism. We're perpetuating the illusion of what it means to be perfect, of perfect even existing. Being perfect does not exist. It's not even real. Like, when we think of, oh, I want to be perfect, what does that really mean? That means that I want to be like how every single individual person thinks I need to be so that I can be okay within myself, right? There's not really a way of perfectionism. There's not really a way of being perfect. To think that you have to be perfect is simply thinking that you have to be what other people say you have to be, that you have to be how other people think you have to be. Not necessarily like there's a way to be perfect. No, it doesn't exist. And so what we're really battling is judgment, right? Fear of judgment, being perceived, being seen, right? As we are, as free as we are, in our messy, in our ugly, in our good, in our bad, in our light, in our dark, in our not having it all togetherness, right? A lot of us have been taught as children for survival that we have to adapt to being a certain way to survive, right? As children, we had to act certain ways so that we could survive within our community, right? Within our family system, within our school dynamics, right? Within school systems and structures. That's just what it was. Or you were bullied, or you were picked on, or you were ostracized. Even if you tried to fit in, you were still picked on, you were still bullied, you were still ostracized. And that's because perfect doesn't exist. No matter how hard we try to be good for this person, be good for this person, be perfect for this person, try to be like this for this person, it's nobody's ever gonna be happy. There's always gonna be something that somebody has to say something about. There's always going to be something to critique. There's always going to be something that can be improved. There's always going to be something. It's very much giving there's always going to be something, because it doesn't exist. It's just a perpetuation of illusion. It's a perpetuation of getting you further and further from yourself, because if you can just act this way and that way and that way and go like this and go like this and be strict and be rigid and be in this box of the patriarchy, right, of rigidity, of strictness, then you won't embrace who you are inside. You will not reach who you are inside. You will not see who you are inside, because you perpetuate the self-fulfilling prophecy of needing to be perfect, of perfectionism. And so, like I said, as a child, we did need to be perfect to survive. To live, we had to act a certain way to and with others around us, because we needed them to caretake for us. We needed them for survival. We literally needed them. But it's now that we're adults, now that we're growing up, we can separate, we can expand, we can, for lack of a better word, rebel. And it's time to rebel. Amen. Amen. Because you know what? I'm so sick of perfectionism and feeling like I have to be perfect and feeling like I have to be this one way or this one thing. And it's nobody's one way, nobody's one thing. We all have many different facets and parts and sides and aspects to us, light and dark, good and bad. And it depends on your perception of good and bad, right and wrong. And then it's we don't even have to cling to good and bad and right and wrong. We can just let people exist. And of course, that's going to take time, right? There's years and years of structures and things built up around this way of thinking, this programming, this mindset, this conditioning, because it is conditioning, right? It is programming. It is put into us to make us act and not act in certain ways, do and not do certain things. For example, speaking up. A lot of people don't speak up because they feel like they don't know what they're saying. They feel like somebody's going to judge them. Somebody's going to say something. They're not going to show up perfectly, so they don't even want to speak. But it's that right in itself is putting us in boxes to not speak, to not be who we are, to not self-express because, oh, well, if I can't do it perfectly or I don't know everything or da da da, then everybody's gonna. And it's like, granted, some people are going to judge. They are gonna say something. They are gonna be nasty. But also, on the other side of that, is your community, are your people that will see you, that will understand you, that will acknowledge you, that you will not be too much for. Amen. And I'm just feeling it because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Because it's so true and I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of it. And if you know, which I'm sure you do, we all deal with this in some certain way. It literally drowns you out. Like it tries to take away your life force energy. It tries to zap at your core, at who you are, which the core is the core of who you are, right? It's who you are at the root, right? And if you think of the word core, C-O-R-E, C-O, co-create, core, right? Core, co-create, C-O-R-E. R-E is remembrance. So it's like, I'll write it out here if you whatever, but I'll put it here. So it's like the core of you is co-created with divine energy, with source energy, with God. You are co-created with God at your core. And so healing and letting go and releasing is about getting back to your core, right? It's about remembering, right? Co-creating, remembering, remembrance. It's about remembering who you are. When you remember who you are powerful, you are capable, you are empowered. You can move throughout the world without any restrictions. And if you have restrictions, which they might always be there, it's like you know how to deal with them better because you're not trapped in these programs, in these conditionings of society. Perfectionism is ruining lives. It's ruining our lives. And this is for the Virgos out there because as a Virgo North Node, let's just, if you know, you know, Virgos are like very organized. They can be very critical. They can be very like everything has to be together. Like everything has to be perfect. But even normal people, like not Virgos experiences, it's a common thing to experience perfectionism. What I'm here to say is perfectionism is not real and we really need to let it go. Like we actually need to like get to the roots of our perfectionism and like work with them and work them out and see like, okay, what is this really about? Right? Like where did this stem from? Because like a mutual of mine said, perfectionism is ultimately a trauma response. Like I said, where does it come from? Childhood. Like I said, what was it for? Survival, right? So we're trying to not survive anymore. We don't want to perpetuate survival. We want to perpetuate thriving. We want to perpetuate living. We want to perpetuate freedom. And so that's why it's important for us to break free from cycles and programs and conditionings and mindsets associated to perfectionism and being perfect. You see, the thing is, you're never going to be perfect. And I'm talking to me right now in the camera, but I'm also talking to you watching this. You're never going to be perfect, like ever. Like, you are always going to make mistakes. You are always going to disappoint people. You are always going to get backlash from some certain thing, from some certain way, if you are who you are authentically, if you just exist as you are. If you make mistakes, it does not mean, and I think that's also our thing, right? Making mistakes then equates to being incompetent, right? Not being enough, lacking, being embarrassed, right? Feeling embarrassed. And those are normal human things, but it's also like that has been conditioned into us. It should not be normalized to make mistakes and then feel embarrassed or humiliated, or to feel embarrassed or humiliated for being who you are in all your aspects, because we're all human, whether we're actually human or not, right? We're all human. We're all having a human experience. We're we're spiritual beings at the root, right? The overarching theme is that we're all spiritual beings before anything, but we are human, right? We're walking this human earth. So we're going to have human emotions. We're going to have human reactions. We're going to have human responses. We are going to be human, and humans are not perfect by any means. How could they be? We're still learning about things. We're still exploring things that have not been ever we're still conducting things are still happening. So there's never, we're always evolving, we're always changing, right? And so it's like, that's why I just saw 10 o'clock. That's why I don't subscribe to cancel culture. for example. Like, that's rooted in perfectionism. That's rooted in being perfect, because we're all gonna make mistakes. So why are we like all ganging up on this one person and being like, oh, you're done, you don't get to say, you don't get to speak, you don't get to change, you don't get to grow, you don't get to heal, you don't get to explain, you don't get to be understood, no, you're just bad and you're over there. Like, no, everybody deserves to be heard out. Everybody deserves an opportunity to change, maybe even opportunities. Now, does that mean we all have to carry their hand and hold their hand through it and da da da? No. But if somebody does something, they recognize it, they do it again, they recognize it, and then they actually change and they actually start getting better, does that mean we should just, oh, well, they were already canceled? No. No. Because I know that if it were me, and I know that if it were you, and you made a mistake, no matter what it was, right? I don't know. We're just going to say you made a mistake. You would want people to hear you out if you wanted to change, if you wanted to create community. You would want things to be fair, right? So treat others how you want to be treated. Amen. And so imperfectionism is that, right? Like, especially there's this thing where it's like, oh, I saw somebody do something embarrassing, but like I played it off like I didn't see it. It's like, that's a common thing. And that's a sweet thing to do. I actually do that as well, because it's like, I don't want people to feel embarrassed, humiliated, all these things. Like, nobody needs to feel these things. But as humans, we're going to feel it because it's part of the life experience, right? But it's up to us in our minds to reclaim. Thank you, Spirit. Reclaim our minds, reclaim our autonomy, reclaim who we are and what we came here to do. We did not come here to be small versions, small, subdued versions of ourselves. No, we came here to be big. We came here to expand. We came here to rise above, and we will rise above, and we can rise above. But we must look at the structures and systems within our minds and the confines, like perfectionism, like this idea of being perfect, and really disable it and deconstruct it and understand it doesn't exist, and it's only existing because we're perpetuating it. When we try to be perfect, we think like, and this is my experience, when I try to be perfect, when we try to be perfect, we think that like, okay, I'm doing so well, I have it all together, I'm perfect, right? Like, nobody can see any of my flaws, nobody can see any of my insecurities, like I have a block up, like there are so many blocks, like nobody can see anything, like I am perfect, I am put together, only see me as that. And it's like, do you see how I'm standing right now? Like, it's strict, right? That's so strict because it doesn't allow for us to be fluid like we are. It doesn't allow for us to flow. It doesn't allow for us to grow. It doesn't allow for us to expand. In being imperfect, there is space for growth. In being imperfect, there is space for nuance. In being imperfect, there is space for freedom, right? There's space for community, for belonging. And so it's like, when we try to be perfect, we think like, oh, this feels good, like I think, oh, this feels good, like I'm perfect, okay, like everything's okay. But then it's like, I recognize that, and this is through my shadow work as well, that being perfect is not sustainable. Having it all together is not sustainable. Even in your own life, when like nobody around, it's like, okay, things are together, da-da-da, like I'm cool in this, I have control, right? That's really what we want, control of people's perceptions, control of life. But it's like, we don't have that control. And so it's like, we elusively get ourselves to think, oh, like I'm in control if I act like I have it all together, I'm in control if I'm perfect, I'm in control if I don't put myself out there to be perceived. But it's like, really, you're not. Like, you're in elusive control, but you're restricting yourself. You're not really being yourself. You're not being true to yourself. You're not allowing yourself to open up. You're not allowing yourself to make mistakes, to grow, to learn, to expand. You're like, no, like this is good. And so that's what I found, like in my shadow work. He's like, yeah, being perfect feels good for a minute, but then it's like, every time I'm like, this is not sustainable. Like, every time I try to play by the book and I try to be like very one way, and I try to be, the best I can, and like I just try to be very conscious and like aware of what other people are thinking and saying and feeling, and just aware of like myself, like over aware even, right? Like overthinking, when it's like, I don't need to do that, right? I'm only doing that because I'm like, I have to be perfect. But like, why do I have to be perfect? And it's like, oh, well, I have to be perfect because if I'm not perfect, then nobody's gonna take me seriously, then they're gonna think this and they're gonna think that. Again, it's about judgment, it's about projection, it's about how people are perceiving us. It's not actually about us having to be perfect, it's about how we're making other people's opinions impact us, right? How we're allowing them to impact us. When I'm trying to be perfect, I recognize like I can't be, like, it's not sustainable. Perfectionism is not sustainable. And that's why it is ruining lives. It is ruining my life because it's not sustainable, because it doesn't literally exist. And so that's the thing. While I have elusive control and elusive protection, on the other end, it's like, but this isn't working, but this is not actually protecting me, it's hindering me, it's not actually freeing me, it's constricting and restricting me, it's not actually making me feel good, it's actually making me feel worse at the end of the day, because it always comes back to how it's not sustainable, how it doesn't work, how it's not possible to be perfect, because perfection is an illusion. And I literally made a video on this like years ago, but I'm coming back to it because that's part of the shadow work, looking at it again and again and again and again and again, and going through the layers and the layers and the layers of programming and conditioning. And that's why it's programming and conditioning, because it literally has been happening since childhood, and then we've only seen perpetuations of that, like on social media. You think this person's life is perfect, you think that person's life is perfect, oh, they went on 10 trips, their life is so perfect, oh, they're so beautiful, they're so perfect, oh, their life is so easy for them. It's like, nobody has an easy life. And I really need you to open your mind if you think that. Like, even the person with the easiest life that you think is the easiest life, they don't have the easiest life. Millionaires, they don't have an easy life. They have money, right? So they have perks and they have easy, access to things, right? But they still have an emotional life just like you and I. They still have a personal life just like you and I. They still have a mental and spiritual life just like you and I. And in that aspect, nobody's perfect. We all have light and dark aspects. Light and dark aspects. We all have good and bad features. We all have duality. Right? And so perfection doesn't leave space for duality. Perfection doesn't leave space for fluidity. It leaves space for only this, only that. And perfectionism is just like, oh, like you have to, it's just like, perfectionism is just whatever we decide it to be. Like it's not real. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even based in anything. Like, oh, to be perfect, you have to be smart. You have to be this. You have to be that. Because it's like, even the smartest person isn't perfect. Even the smartest person doesn't know everything. Like, and so, like I'm saying, like with social media, like we see people who are on these trips and all these things. We see this cute couple and we think, oh, their relationship is so perfect. Oh, their life is so perfect while they're traveling. They have the best life. Oh my God. And it's like, you're putting this person, these people, celebrities, influencers, known people, even like me. Like, I'm not an influencer. Don't ever call me an influencer. I'm an impact maker. Okay. But no offense to the influencer culture. I just like don't want to be associated to that. And so it's like, you put all these people on a pedestal, and I have even two like celebrities. And then we get upset when they are human. We get upset when they're imperfect. We get upset when they don't do what we think they need to do. We get upset when they're authentic and that doesn't match with what we had in our minds. It's like, because you projected this entire perfectionist thing onto them just because they have a high title, because they're high ranking, because they have power. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, the power is within you, not without you, is the point of this video. The power is inside you, at your core, in your mind. Fortune teller told me the power's in your mind. That's a song by Katy Perry, and that is a line from it. The power is in your mind. The power is in you. It's not outside of you, in the money, in the objects, and this, and that, and that, and this, in being perfect, in trying to be like this, trying to be like that, not do this, not do that. No. It's in stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing who you are, and figuring out who that is, and liberating yourself from the confines of society. You may say, well, Kizzy, well, enlightened intuitive, well, Kira, how do I liberate myself? Well, if you want the real answer is you gotta question everything. You gotta open your mind. You gotta start realizing that life is not what it is at surface level, with just these two eyes. You have another eye right here, where my gem is. You have a third eye. You have an intuition, and you know things. Even if you don't see it, you know. That's a gut feeling. That's your intuition. That's your instinct. We all have that, but it's about tapping into it. And how do we tap into it? Check out my video on how to begin healing, right, from my library series. But outside of that, question things. Question what doesn't feel right. Question what doesn't make sense. Analyze how you're feeling. Why are you feeling that way? Get in tune with your feelings. That's another thing as well. We're afraid of getting into our feelings because, oh, feelings are not good. Feelings are bad. Feelings are this. Feelings are that. Oh, why? Because you want to be perfect? Because you want to be untouchable? Because you want to be unfazed? No, you're phased. You are touchable, right? So let's stop pretending. Let's stop pretending. That's literally what perfectionism is. That's literally what being perfect is. Striving for having it all together. All these things, like, it's not real and it's just pretend. Like, I'm a Barbie girl and a Barbie. Like, no, you're not a Barbie. You're not a robot. Like, you're a human being. So let's act like it, right? It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be who you are. And too much, we are like restricting ourselves because, oh, that's weird, that's this, that, all these labels. Again, just creating this idea of, okay, well, to be perfect, to have it all together means I'm never stressed. I'm not too emotional. I'm not too worried. I'm not too this. I'm not like this. I'm over that. And it's like, killing me softly with this song. Like, it's stealing. It's stealing from us. So that is the point of today's video. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, I definitely want to hear from you guys what you think about perfectionism, what you think about what it means to be perfect, because I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't exist. It's an illusion and it is ruining lives. And we really need to bring awareness to this, because the more of us that recognize that being perfect and perfectionism is an illusion, we will make space and room for mistakes. We will make space and room for people to have quirks, for people to be weird, for people to be different, without it being like, oh, you have to be like this in order to be like this, or you have to, like, no, you can be anything you want. Life is a work of art. You gotta paint it colorful. You can don't have to stick to any rules. You don't need a high IQ to succeed in what you do. You just gotta have no doubt. Just believe in yourself. That girl was a one-time teenager. If you've seen that movie, you know. If you know, you know. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. So peace be with you. And I love you. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.